The tourist group stopped for a rest 4 hours walk from base camp. March 2006 was unusually warm for the Karaganda Mountains. The snow melted faster than usual, exposing rocky outcrops and crevasses. Daniyar Iskakov was the first to notice the cave. The 23-year-old geology student was looking for a convenient place to pitch a tent. The entrance was almost completely hidden by a rockfall. Only a narrow half-meter-wide crack led inside. "Guys, there's something here," he shouted to the others. The group leader, Viktor Stepanovich Orlov, was the first to approach. The 50-year-old mountaineering instructor examined the entrance with a professional eye. He took out a flashlight and crouched down. A cave, a deep one. Air is coming from inside, which means there is a second exit. Marina Kozlova, the expedition's doctor, shook her head. "Viktor Stepanovich, our route is scheduled by the hour." 15 minutes, just let's take a look around. Before we begin our story, please write which city you are from. We are very interested in where you are watching our video from. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your rating. Daniyar was already squeezing through the crack. Anton Reshetnikov, the group's photographer, followed him. Viktor Stepanovich sighed and followed the young people. Inside, the cave was more spacious. The arches rose 3 meters high. The beam of the flashlight picked out stone ledges from the darkness. The temperature was noticeably higher than outside. "Look, something is shining here." Anton pointed the flashlight to the far corner. A metal box the size of a suitcase stood against the wall. The half-decayed remains of a backpack lay nearby. Daniyar stepped forward and froze. My God! 2 skeletons lay at the entrance to the cave. The bones had turned white with age. The remains of their clothing had turned to rags. But their hunting licenses in plastic covers had been preserved. Sergei Belov, born in 1949. Mikhail Belov, born in 1953. Issued in Karaganda, December 1991. "Don't touch anything." Viktor Stepanovich took out his cell phone. There was no signal. "Anton, take pictures of everything. Marina, determine the approximate time of death based on the condition of the remains." Marina carefully sat down next to the skeletons. She took medical gloves out of her backpack. "Complete decomposition of soft tissues, in cave conditions, at least 10 years. 15. Look at the date on the tickets." Anton clicked his camera. December 91. Meanwhile, Daniyar walked around the perimeter of the cave. In the depths, behind a natural rock ledge, he found another skull, without the rest of the skeleton. Just a skull, neatly placed on a flat stone. "There's a third one." Viktor Stepanovich approached and shone his flashlight. Next to the skull lay some decayed documents. The clothing was difficult to make out, but the buttons were preserved. Police buttons from the 1970s. "This one died earlier, much earlier." Marina examined the skull. "At least 20 years ago, maybe even 30. The metal box was locked with a padlock. The lock was rusted, but it held fast. Anton photographed it from all sides. The inscription, 1982, was scratched on the lid of the box. "Don't open it." Viktor Stepanovich pulled Daniyar's hand away. "This is a matter for the investigation." At the entrance to the cave they found another item, a Saiga hunting rifle leaning against the wall. The magazine was empty. Dozens of shell casings were scattered around. Daniyar began to count them. 43, 44, 45. "That's enough." Viktor Stepanovich looked around. Either they were shooting at someone or something. Anton noticed scratches on the cave wall. 4 parallel grooves running from top to bottom, too wide for a human hand. He took a close-up photo of them. Marina studied the position of the skeletons. Both were lying with their heads toward the exit. One of them had his arms stretched out in front of him as if he had been trying to crawl out. The other had his right hand clenched around an empty TT pistol. "No bullets." She checked the magazine. They shot them all. In the pocket of the first skeleton's half-rotten jacket, Daniel found a notebook with a cellophane cover. The paper was yellowed, but the text was legible. The last entry was dated December 24, 1991. Viktor Stepanovich took the notebook and read aloud. "Third day in the cave. It's not going away. We're running out of ammunition. Sergei is wounded. If they find us." The entry broke off mid-sentence. What does it mean? Danyar looked around. A bear, probably. Or wolves, Marina continued her inspection. Although it's strange, wolves wouldn't besiege a cave for 3 days. In the far corner, Anton discovered another detail. Tin cans, neatly stacked in a pyramid. 12 of them, all open and clean to a shine. They had enough food, he photographed the cans. For a week, at least. Viktor Stepanovich examined the police uniform near the third skull. Something crunched in the breast pocket. He carefully took out a sheet of paper folded in 4. The paper crumbled in his hands, but he managed to make out a few words. Captain Grachev, 6-6, Special Assignment, 1982. Grachev, Marina frowned. Why do I know that name? We'll figure it out later. We need to get out of here and call the police. I mean, the police, Viktor Stepanovich corrected himself. I'm still confused. At the exit, Danyar noticed another oddity. A knife was sticking out of the wall 2 meters above the floor. It was stuck in up to the hilt. Beneath it, numbers were scratched into the stone. 15-20-12. A code? Anton suggested. Or a date. 15th, 20th, 12th. But what? December? Marina wrote it down in her notebook. They decided not to touch the metal box. But Anton noticed that the lock was not rusted evenly. There were fresh scratches on the shackle, as if someone had tried to open it very recently. They left the cave in silence. At the exit, Viktor Stepanovich stopped and looked at the slope. 100 meters below, the remains of an old road were visible. Overgrown, almost indistinguishable, but still recognizable. They came by car, he pointed down. Then they climbed up here. Why? Danyar looked around. What did they need in the cave in winter? On the way back to camp, Marina remembered. Grachev, that's it. My mother worked at the Karaganda hospital in 1982. She told me about the robbery of the cash collectors. One of the organizers was a policeman named Grachev. They never found him. And they never found the money, added Viktor Stepanovich. 3 million Soviet rubles, a huge sum for those times. Anton checked the photos on the camera display. One of the pictures showed a detail they hadn't noticed in the cave. There were more scratches on the wall next to the knife. Not numbers, letters, half erased by time, but still legible. They know. Further on, the rock crumbled. An unpleasant surprise awaited them at base camp. The satellite phone wasn't working. The nearest cell tower was 50 kilometers away. Viktor Stepanovich made a decision. In the morning, Danyar and Anton would go to the nearest village and call the police. The rest would stay and guard the site of the discovery. Marina couldn't sleep that night. She reread her notes by flashlight. 2 brothers who died in December 1991. Police officer Grachev, who disappeared in 1982. A metal box with a lock, dozens of shell casings at the entrance, scratches on the wall. Something didn't add up. If the Belov brothers were looking for Grachev's money, why didn't they open the box? If they were fighting off a beast, why didn't they leave when they ran out of ammunition? And most importantly, what did the unfinished phrase on the wall mean? They know? In the morning, another detail came to light. Anton, looking through the photos, enlarged the picture of the hunting licenses. In the purpose of trip column, both brothers had written, not hunting, but official assignment. At the bottom was the stamp of some organization. It was impossible to make out the name in the photo. What kind of official assignment? Danyar was puzzled. They're hunters. In 1991, many people had side jobs, Viktor Stepanovich said, packing his backpack. Maybe they were guarding someone or transporting something. Marina remembered another oddity, the position of the bodies. They were not lying next to each other, but 3 meters apart. It was as if one had tried to get out, and the other had covered him. Or one of them was wounded earlier, she suggested. At 8 in the morning, Daniel and Anton set off for the village. It was a 4-hour walk along a mountain trail. Viktor Stepanovich, Marina, and the rest of the group stayed at the cave. At 10 in the morning, they heard the sound of a helicopter. The helicopter hovered over a clearing 200 meters from the camp. 4 men in camouflage jumped out. They weren't police. Viktor Stepanovich tensed, but the first man to approach showed his ID. Major Sarsenbayev, National Security Committee. Have you found the cave with the remains? How do you know? Marina was surprised. Our guys haven't reached the village yet. We have our sources. Show us the place. They climbed up to the cave in silence. Sarsenbayev was a short, stocky Kazakh man of about 45. He moved confidently, clearly knowing the mountains. His 3 subordinates carried the equipment. The major stopped at the entrance. He took a yellowed photograph out of his pocket. He compared it with the terrain. That's the one. We've been looking for it for 15 years. Did you know about this cave? Viktor Stepanovich did not hide his surprise. Not the cave, the people who might be in it. Let's go inside. In the cave, Sarsenbayev immediately headed for a metal box. He examined the lock and nodded to one of his subordinates. The man took out a bolt cutter. Wait, Marina tried to stop him. That's evidence. It's a state secret that was stolen in '82, the major nodded. The lock clicked. Inside the box were stacks of money, Soviet rubles of various denominations, but not 3 million, at most 300,000, and a folder with documents wrapped in plastic. Sarsenbayev opened the folder. He looked through the first few pages. His face changed. So that's what it is, he turned to Viktor Stepanovich. You'll have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. What's in there? Lists, the KGB's network of agents in the Karaganda region. Real names, addresses, code names. Grachev worked in a special department. He had access. The major examined the remains at the entrance. He took out his tablet and checked something. The Belov brothers. They were wanted in '91. Then they decided they had fled to Russia. They're hunters. Marina showed him the tickets. Hunters, and something else. Sarsenbayev took a document out of the folder. Look, a contract with the private security company Bars, December 1991. The Belovs were hired for a special assignment. What kind? To find the cave and take what was hidden in it. The client was a certain Fyodor Mamontov, a former convict who served 8 years for participating in that very robbery. Viktor Stepanovich whistled. Did he know where Grachev hid the money? He assumed so. Grachev had a partner, Pavel Ermakov, a driver in the police. They caught him in '82, but he kept quiet. He was released in '90 and immediately disappeared. Sarsenbayev showed another photograph, a man of about 50 with a sharp face and deep-set eyes. This is Ermakov. We think he was the first to find Grachev, but something went wrong. Marina studied the documents. Wait, it says here that the Belov brothers were accompanied by a third person, someone named Timur Ospanov, a guide. Ospanov, the major nodded. A local. He knew the mountains like the back of his hand. He also disappeared in December 1991. But there are only 2 bodies here. Anton looked around. Exactly. Where's the third? They searched the cave again. In the far corner, behind a rock protrusion, they found a narrow crevice. Sarsenbayev shone his flashlight into it. The passage led deeper into the cave. Is there a second exit? Let's check. The major nodded to his subordinate. The latter climbed into the crevice with a flashlight. 5 minutes later, he returned. In his hand he held a half-decayed wallet. "I found it in a dead end. Can't go any further. There's a collapse." The wallet contained documents in the name of Timur Ospanov and a note written in a trembling hand. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to. They made me." "Who made you?" Marina reread the note. "And what didn't he want to do?" Sarsenbaev was silent, thinking. Then he pointed to the scratches on the wall. 4 parallel grooves. "You said a bear or wolves. What if it was a person? Climbing crampons leave similar marks." "Why would a person scratch the wall?" "To climb up. Look," the Major shone his light at the ceiling. "There's a ledge there, and another crack." Indeed, there was a small niche right under the cave ceiling. One of Sarsenbaev's subordinates climbed up. He came down with another find. An old army tablet. Inside was a map of the area with marked points. And a diary, not the Belov brothers. The handwriting was different. Yermakov, the Major recognized the handwriting. He kept records. The first entry was dated December 15, 1991. "Found the cave. Grachev is here. He's been dead for 10 years. The box is in place, but the lock won't budge. Need tools. We'll be back in a week." The second entry is dated December 22nd. "Came with a bolt cutter, but there's a strange car by the cave. 2 men and a local guide. Heard their conversation. They're looking for the same thing I am. I'll wait." The third entry is dated December 23rd. "They found the cave. They went inside. I followed, hid in the upper niche. I can hear their voices. They're talking about money and some documents. One suggests sharing, the other is against it." Marina turned the page. The handwriting became uneven. The letters jumped around. December 24th, morning. Everything went wrong. During the night, the guide tried to escape with some of the money. The brothers caught up with him in the far passage. They fought. There was a collapse. The passage was blocked, along with the guide. The brothers are in a panic. December 24th, daytime. They noticed me. I went down and introduced myself as a police officer. I said I had come for the same reason. I suggested we join forces. The older brother agreed. The younger one is hesitant. December 24th evening. The younger brother found my documents. He realized who I was. A fight broke out. I fired a shot. I hit the older one in the shoulder. They are shooting back. I'm back upstairs. They have a lot of ammunition. I'm running out. The last entry was almost illegible. December 25th, night. It's cold. They stopped shooting. I think they ran out of bullets, but they're guarding the exit. It's a trap. If I go down, they'll kill me. If I stay, I'll freeze to death. I can hear the wounded man moaning. I'm writing on the wall. Viktor Stepanovich remembered the unfinished sentence. They know. They knew, Sarsenbaev finished. The brothers knew who he was, maybe from the very beginning. But why didn't they leave? They didn't abandon their wounded brother, and Ermakov blocked the exit from above. He could have thrown a rock, fired his last bullets. It was a stalemate. Marina checked the dates. It turns out they all died within 2 or 3 days, from the cold and their wounds. And from their own greed, the Major shook his head. 3 groups of people were looking for the same thing, and no one wanted to share. Anton photographed the diary. On the last page he noticed another detail, a faint pencil sketch, a map of the cave with marked locations. Look, there's a cross marking the place where we weren't looking for anything. The dot was right at the entrance, to the left of the opening. Sarsenbaev walked over and felt the wall. One of the stones was loosely laid. He pulled it out. Behind the stone lay another bundle. Wrapped in oilcloth were a Makarov pistol and an ID card. Major Askar Sereyevich Jumanov of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. "Damn!" Sarsenbaev cursed. "That's our man, an undercover agent in Mamontov's gang." Was he the 4th? Marina tried to understand. It looks that way. Mamontov sent the Belov brothers to find the money. Jumanov was supposed to supervise them, but something went wrong. Viktor Stepanovich reread the notes. No, there's a discrepancy here. If Jumanov was with the brothers, why wasn't his body found? Why did he leave his weapon and documents behind? Marina added. Sarsenbayev took out his phone and dialed a number. He spoke in Kazakh, quickly and sharply. When he finished, he turned to the others. I checked the database. Jumanov went missing on December 28, 1991. He last made contact on December 20th. He said he was going to the mountains with Mamontov's group. But the brothers left on December 21st. Anton checked the documents. So Jumanov arrived earlier to scout the situation. Marina noticed the knife stuck in the wall. And the numbers under it? 15-20-12? Sarsenbayev examined the knife more closely. The handle was engraved with AZ, Oskar Jumanov. It's his knife. And the numbers. He took out a map and checked the coordinates. It's not a date. It's coordinates. Azimuth and distance. 15 degrees, 20 meters, height 12 meters. Leaving the cave, the major took out a compass. He measured the direction. He pointed to a rocky ledge higher up the slope. There. The climb took 10 minutes. Behind the ledge, there was another crevice. Narrow, almost invisible. Sarsenbayev shone his light inside. There's something there. He squeezed into the crevice. He came out a minute later with a canvas bag. Inside were documents, money, and a cassette tape for a tape recorder. Who has a player? The major looked around at the group. Marina had an old tape recorder in her backpack. She always took it on expeditions to record her observations. They inserted the cassette. The voice was hoarse and intermittent. This is Major Jumanov speaking. December 26, 1991. Recording for the leadership. The operation has failed. The Belov brothers are dead. Yermakov, too. The guide Ospanov is buried in the far passage. I am wounded. Bullet in the side, heavy blood loss. I won't make it to base. Pause. Heavy breathing can be heard. I will outline the sequence of events. On December 20th, I arrived at the designated square. I found the cave first. I discovered Grachev's remains and the box. On December 21st, the brothers with the guide. I watched secretly. On December 22nd, Ermakov appeared. He was not part of the plan. Another pause. Coughing. On December 24th, the situation got out of control. The guide tried to steal the money. The brothers chased him. I heard shots and followed. A fight broke out in a narrow passage. I tried to break it up. Ospanov fired and hit me in the side. There was a cave-in. Ospanov was buried. His voice grew weaker and weaker. We returned to the main cave. Yermakov was there. He introduced himself, but the younger Belov recognized him. He had seen a photo in his father's old case file. Shooting started. The older brother was wounded. Yermakov barricaded himself upstairs. I tried to get out and was hit by a second bullet. I don't know who fired it. Everyone was shooting at everyone else. A long pause. I crawled out of the cave at night. The brothers and Ermakov continued shooting. I hid the documents and weapons. I made it here. My strength is running out. It's cold. Very cold. Tell my family. The recording broke off. Sarsenbayev turned off the tape recorder. 4 came for the money. 4 died. But where is Jumanov's body? Viktor Stepanovich looked around. The major pointed into the crevice. There, let's not disturb him. We'll take him later, with the official team. Marina still couldn't understand one detail. But why did Mamontov need old Soviet money in 1991? It was worthless by then. Sarsenbayev opened a folder with documents from the drawer. Money wasn't the main goal. Look, there are more lists here. Accounts in foreign banks. CPSU party money taken out of the country in the 80s. Account numbers, passwords, amounts, millions of dollars. Grachev stole more than just cash? He worked in the special department. He had access to secret financial information. These documents were worth 100 times more than 3 million rubles. Anton continued to take pictures. So Mamontov knew about the documents? Or guessed, Ermakov could have told him in prison. They were in the same cell for 2 years. Viktor Stepanovich pointed to the cave below. What will happen now? An official investigation, an exhumation, an examination. The case will be closed in 6 months to a year. The relatives will be told that the bodies have been found. And the documents? The accounts? Sarsenbayev smiled. What documents? There was only old Soviet money and remains here. Nothing else. He looked at the group. You didn't see anything. You'll sign the appropriate papers. Marina wanted to object, but the major raised his hand. This is a matter of national security. The people whose names are on these lists, some of them are still in power. In Kazakhstan, in Russia, in other republics. Don't stir up the past. They descended to the camp in silence. Sarsenbayev stopped at the helicopter. You know what's the saddest thing? They could all have survived. The brothers, Ermakov, even Jumanov. If it weren't for greed, if they had agreed. But everyone wanted everything for themselves. He took a photograph out of his folder. It was a group photo. Several police officers in front of the administration building. This is 1980. Grachev, Ermakov, young Jumanov. They worked in the same department. They were friends. And 11 years later, they killed each other in a mountain cave. The helicopter took off. Below, the cave remained with its secrets. Marina looked out the window and thought about the unfinished phrase on the wall. They know. Now she understood. It wasn't Ermakov who wrote it. It was the dying Jumanov, the last thing he tried to communicate. They knew each other. 3 days after the discovery, Marina was sitting in a cafe in Karaganda. An elderly man with a neat gray beard sat down across from her. Anatoly Belov, the younger brother of the deceased. Thank you for agreeing to meet, he said, holding a yellowed photograph in his hands. Major Sarsenbayev gave me your phone number. He said you found my brothers. Marina nodded. I'm very sorry. For 15 years, I didn't know what had happened to them. Their wives died without ever finding out. Their children grew up without fathers. He took a sip of tea. Tell me what they looked like, how they were lying there, Marina told him carefully. She left out the details about the shootout and only mentioned the accident in the mountains. Anatoly listened silently. You know, I was supposed to go with them. He put down his glass. On December 20th, Seryoga called. He said there was a job, guarding someone in the mountains. Good pay. But I refused. My wife was pregnant. I didn't want to take any risks. Who were they supposed to guard? He didn't say, only that the man was looking for something important in the mountains, some old documents, and that it was connected with his father. Marina became alert. With your father? Anatoly took out another photo, a man in a police uniform, very similar to the brothers. Ivan Petrovich Belov, police colonel, died in '83. Heart attack. He was only 52. Did he know Grachev? The old man raised his eyebrows in surprise. How did you? Yes, he knew him. They served together. My father was the head of the department where Grachev worked. After the robbery, he was removed from his position. He died a year later. Marina began to understand. Was your father investigating? For the first 2 months. Then the KGB took over the case, but my father continued to search on his own, unofficially. He said that Grachev had betrayed him. He used official information that he had received from my father. What kind of information? Anatoly paused. Then he took a yellowed folder out of his briefcase. After my father died, my mother gave this to me. She told me to keep it safe. I only read it many years later. Here are copies of the documents my father collected. Marina opened the folder. Diagrams, lists, photographs, and a map of the Karkaral Mountains with marked points. My father figured out where Grachev might be hiding, but he didn't have time to check. He died a week before the planned trip. Did your brothers know about this map? Of course. I showed it to them in 1991 when things got really bad. Sergei lost his job. Mikhail was earning pennies at school. I suggested looking for Grachev. Maybe we'd find some money. Marina was sorting through the documents. Among them was a piece of paper with Ivan Belov's handwriting. Grachev couldn't have acted alone. He had an accomplice in the KGB. Someone was covering for him. Did your father suspect anyone in particular? No, or he didn't write it down. But the brothers found something. The day before we left, Mikhail came to see me. He was excited. He said a man had appeared who knew the truth about Grachev, and he was willing to pay for the search. Mamontov? I don't know his name. Mikhail didn't say, only that it was connected to my father's old case, and that if they found the documents, they would restore his good name. Marina remembered Sarsenbayev's words about the lists of agents. What if your father was on those lists? Anatoly shook his head. My father was an honest man, but in 1982 they wanted to appoint him head of the regional administration. But they appointed someone else. My father thought it was because of the Grachev case. Who did they appoint? General Mamontov, Fyodor Ilyich Mamontov. Marina froze. Was Mamontov a police general? KGB. He was transferred to the police after some scandal. My father said that Mamontov himself organized the robbery. He used Grachev, then framed him. The picture was beginning to clear up. Marina took out her phone and dialed Sarsenbayev. Major, I need to meet with you urgently. I have information about the case. An hour later, they were sitting in Sarsenbayev's office. Anatoly repeated his story. The major listened and took notes. General Mamontov, he opened his laptop, died in 2001. Cancer, but he had a son, Fyodor Fyodorovich, a crime boss in the 90s. The same one who hired the brothers? It looks that way. Look, Sarsenbayev brought up a photo on the screen. This is from the 1992 case. Mamontov Jr. was accused of extortion. The case was closed. There wasn't enough evidence. Was he looking for his father's documents? Or he was afraid that others would find them? If Grachev really stole compromising information on General Mamontov, his son had to destroy it. Anatoly was going through his father's papers. He pulled out another document. Here, my father wrote this down. On May 23, 1982, Grachev met with someone at the Alton restaurant. The waiter recognized General Mamontov. A week before the robbery, Sarsenbayev nodded. Briefing. Marina remembered Ermakov's diary. But Ermakov was also looking for the money. Didn't he know about the documents? Or he knew but didn't understand their value. For him, the $3 million was the main thing. And Jumanov? Sarsenbayev closed his laptop. Jumanov was following orders to infiltrate Mamontov's group, find out what he was looking for. But he didn't take into account that Ermakov would be there. Anatoly stood up. I want to know one thing. Did my brothers die as heroes or as criminals? As victims, the major looked him in the eye. They were victims of someone else's game. Mamontov used them to find compromising information on his father. Ermakov appeared by accident. Jumanov tried to save everyone. And the documents? Those lists? Destroyed, Sarsenbayev said firmly. Too many people would have suffered. In the evening, Marina returned to the hotel. Viktor Stepanovich was waiting for her in the lobby. Well, did you figure it out? Partially. 4 groups of people were looking for the same thing for different reasons. Grachev hid it. Ermakov wanted money. Mamontov wanted to destroy the compromising evidence. The Belov brothers wanted to restore their father's honor. And Jumanov? He was doing his duty, and he died trying to prevent the massacre. Viktor Stepanovich shook his head. They all died, and all for nothing. The next day, the Belov brothers' funeral took place. An unexpectedly large crowd gathered, old friends, neighbors, former colleagues. Anatoly stood by the graves, holding his grandchildren's hands. After the funeral, an elderly woman approached Marina. "Are you the one who found them?" "Yes." "I am Sergei's wife, ex-wife," she corrected herself. "Thank you. For 15 years, I didn't know if he was alive or dead. Now at least he has a grave." "I'm sorry." "You know, the day before he left, Sergei was acting strangely. He kept saying that we would soon be rich, that justice would be restored. I didn't understand. Now I understand." "What exactly?" "His father, Ivan Petrovich, kept talking about betrayal before he died, that he had been set up. Sergei wanted to prove him right." The woman left. Marina remained standing by the graves. The monument bore the inscription, "Sergei Ivanovich Belov and Mikhail Ivanovich Belov, killed in the line of duty." It didn't say what duty, but Marina knew, a duty to his father. A week later, Major Sarsenbayev called Marina. "There is new information. Can you come in?" In his office, he showed her a document. It was an interrogation report from 1994. "I found it in the archives. They were interrogating a certain Timur Ospanov." "The guide? But he died in the cave?" "No, this is a different Ospanov, his cousin. He told us some interesting things." Marina read the transcript. Timur Jr. claimed that his brother Talgat worked for Mamontov Jr. He smuggled contraband across the mountains to China. He knew all the trails and caves. In December 1991, Talgat was given an assignment to take 2 hunters to a certain cave and leave them there. Mamontov said it was training for the guards. Leave them? Why? So that Ermakov would show up. Mamontov knew that he was watching everyone who was looking for Grachev. The plan was simple. Let Ermakov and the brothers kill each other, and Talgat would take the documents. But Talgat was killed too. No, Sarsenbayev shook his head. Keep reading. The transcript continued. Talgat returned on December 25th. He said that everything had gone wrong. There had been shooting in the cave. He escaped through the far passage, but before that he took some of the money, 300,000 rubles. Did he survive? And he fled to China in January 1992. Mamontov looked for him, but didn't find him. Marina reread it. So there's no body in the far passage? We checked yesterday. It's really empty. Only traces of a collapse and an old jacket. Talgat faked his death? It looks that way. Smart move. Everyone decided he was dead, even Jumanov. Where is he now? Sarsenbayev shrugged. If he's alive, he's somewhere in China under a different name. 15 years have passed. The trail has gone cold. Marina put down the report. So, out of the 5 people in the cave, only the traitor survived? Life is unfair, the major stood up. But there's one more detail. Remember the lists of agents in Grachev's documents? You said you destroyed them? Not all of them. I kept one list. For history, he took a piece of paper out of the safe. Look, the third name. Marina read it. Belov IP call sign keeper, recruited in 1975. Ivan Petrovich Belov, the brother's father. It can't be. It can. He worked for the KGB. He passed on information about criminals, not for money, but out of conviction. He believed he was helping the state. Did the brothers know? Hardly, but Grachev knew, and General Mamontov knew. That's why Belov wasn't touched after the robbery. They don't betray their own. Marina tried to make sense of it. But then why did Mamontov send the brothers for the documents? To destroy them. If it came out that Police Colonel Belov was a KGB agent, investigations would begin. The whole network would be exposed, including Mamontov himself. And the brothers died without knowing the truth about their father? Maybe it's for the best Sarsenbayev put the document in the safe. Some secrets must remain secrets. In the evening, Marina sat in her room and wrote a report on the expedition. Dry facts, coordinates, descriptions of findings. No names, no details, as Sarsenbayev had instructed. The phone rang. Anatoly Belov. "Marina, sorry for calling so late. I was sorting through my brother's things. Mikhail's wife gave them to me, and I found something strange." "What exactly?" "A letter. Mikhail wrote to his wife on December 23rd, but he didn't send it. Listen." He read aloud. "Dear Sveta, we found what we were looking for, but it's not what we thought it would be. Father was right and wrong at the same time. Grachev really is a traitor, but so is Father. I can't write any more. I'll tell you when I get back. If I get back. Sergei is wounded. Someone is walking around the cave. We're trapped. If anything happens, I love you and the children. Tell them that Dad was trying to do the right thing. Let them not judge him too harshly." Anatoly fell silent. "He knew," Marina said quietly. "Mikhail understood about his father." "Understood what?" Marina couldn't tell the truth. "That everyone in this case was both right and wrong. There is no absolute black and white." "Probably," Anatoly sighed. "You know, I'm glad I didn't go with them then. Otherwise, my daughter would have grown up an orphan too." After the call, Marina went out onto the balcony. The lights of Karaganda shone below. Somewhere out there, in the mountains, the cave remained. Empty now. The investigators had taken everything: bones, documents, weapons. But the mystery remained. The mystery of the people who sought the truth and found death. The mystery of the father who was both a hero and a traitor. The mystery of the sons who died for their father's honor, not knowing his true face. In the morning, Marina was getting ready to leave. Viktor Stepanovich caught up with her at the airport. "You forgot." He handed her a flash drive. "Anton asked me to give it to you, all the photos from the cave." "Thank you." "Marina," he hesitated, "that third skull, Grachev. Someone killed him too, didn't they?" "What are you talking about?" "Sarsenbayev said he died of gangrene after a fracture, but I saw the skull. There was a hole in it. It looked like a bullet hole." Marina was silent. "Someone found him before the brothers did, killed him and took some of the money, left only the documents." "Possibly." Jumanov wrote that he arrived on the 20th and found the cave empty. But what if he found Grachev alive there? "Viktor Stepanovich, Grachev died in '83. The examination confirmed it." "The examination could be wrong, especially if the truth needs to be hidden." They announced the landing. Marina shook Viktor Stepanovich's hand. "Some secrets are better left undisclosed." "Even if justice depends on it?" "Especially then." On the plane, Marina looked through the photos on the flash drive. The last shot was taken by Anton after the discovery. The entrance to the cave against the backdrop of the sunset. There was another inscription on the stone at the entrance. It was very fresh, made with spray paint. Marina enlarged the image. "Timur Ospanov, 2005. Forgive me." Talgot was returning. 14 years later, he came back to the cave, perhaps tormented by his conscience, perhaps for the remaining money. But that's another story, a story that Marina decided to keep to herself. The plane was gaining altitude. Below were the Karkaral Mountains with their secrets, the cave that had witnessed 3 tragedies in 3 different decades, and a truth that was better left unknown. In Moscow, Marina wrote an official report, dry, without details, a chance discovery, the tragic death of hunters in a blizzard, historical value for the local museum. But for herself, she wrote a different story, about how greed and duty, truth and lies, heroism and betrayal intertwined in one mountain cave, about how people died for secrets that were not worth it, about how sons died defending the honor of their father, who himself was part of a system of lies. She never showed this story to anyone. She only reread it sometimes, remembering that March day in the mountains, the day when the secret that the cave had kept for 15 years was revealed. And every time she thought about the last words in Mikhail Belov's diary, "If they find us, tell the children that we tried to do the right thing, to the best of our understanding of what was right." To the best of their understanding. Maybe that was the whole truth. Everyone did what they thought was right to the best of their understanding, and everyone was wrong. Grachev, who stole money and secrets; Ermakov, who sought easy money; the Belov brothers, who defended their father's honor; Zhumanov, who carried out orders; Talgat Ospanov, who ran away with the money; General Mamontov, who tried to cover up the crimes. They were all right, and they were all wrong. They were all victims, and they were all executioners. And the cave? The cave just was, a silent witness to human passions. It kept the secrets of the dead until the living disturbed its peace. Now the cave is empty again, but Marina knew it wouldn't be for long. Other people with other secrets would come, and the cave would accept them, just as it had accepted Grachev, the Belov brothers, Ermakov, and Zhumanov. Because caves, like truth, are eternal, and people and their secrets are just dust in the wind of time. Question for viewers: do you think the Belov brothers should have sought the truth about their father's past? Or are some family secrets better left undisclosed? Write your opinion in the comments.